Kenya counts down to the presidential revote. We'll have a live update from Nairobi. A South African bakery slices prices and sees its sales skyrocket. And a modest fashion show celebrates the hijab on the catwalk. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Githuyu at Info Vincent Makori, who will join us shortly from Nairobi. This is Africa 54. We begin tonight in Nigeria, where 3 female suicide bombers killed 13 people in the northeast Nigerian city of Maiduguri on Sunday, the deadliest attack in over a month as the conflict with Boko Haram stretches into its 9th year. Police Commissioner Damian Chukwu told reporters the evening of the attack, which also injured 5 people, struck the city's Muna Garage area. The area is home to a camp for just some of the more than 2 million people who have fled fighting with the Boko Haram insurgency, which has left over 20,000 dead. An emergency official told reporters about the attack in Maiduguri, the capital and the largest city of Borno State.
Managed to sneak into Maiduguri, and the first one found her way to detonate the bomb, killing several people. And as of yesterday, we were there in the night up till 12 o'clock. The security men alerted us and advised all the populace that we have to desert the place because there are more suicide bombers.
That conflict, the epicenter of which is in northeastern Nigeria, is showing little signs of slowing despite assurances by the government and military that Boko Haram is on the verge of defeat. Now, for more information on the attack, we are joined on the phone from Maiduguri by journalist Ismail Alpha Abdulrahim. Good evening, Ismail. And what is the latest since the bombing took place a couple of hours ago now? What is the latest on the ground, Ismail?
Yeah, I think when such incidents happen, a kind of situation where the whole environment will be a bit tense, and then after some few hours, everything will get into normal solution. People will go about their normal lives because they are so used to this kind of thing. But one thing clear is that the attacks are just too much very active. That Muna Garage active. And this Muna Garage is along the Maiduguri-Gamboru highway, which is also a highly populated commercial point where it's an international route. So we see that most of these things are signs that the of the insurgents is to a kind of weakened commercial and business activities within the city.
Very good.
And also from the Mua side, they also used to have this attack. But for this particular incident, I think we were able to gather among the stakeholders is that there is the need for intelligence gathering because
Ismail, we're having a little trouble with the audio. Yeah, we're having a little trouble with the audio. Ismail, thank you very much. Ismail Alpha Abdulrahim is a journalist in Maiduguri, speaking to us via the phone live from there. Now, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta urged Kenyans to uphold peace before, during and after Election Day on October 26th. Kenyans are praying for the country as it faces a period of political uncertainty just days before a scheduled repeat presidential election. Kenya is holding the rerun after the Supreme Court threw out the result of an August 8th election won by the incumbent Kenyatta, but disputed by his opponent Raila Odinga. The opposition leader has refused to participate in the rerun, arguing that reforms are needed first to prevent fraud. Also Sunday, Pope Francis urged Catholics to pray for world peace and with a focus on Kenya. The volatile build-up to Thursday's vote has revived memories for Kenyans of ethnically charged violence that killed around 1,200 people after a disputed election in 2007 when Odinga also lost and disputed the result. Now, Kenya's Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, met today to determine if its conditions on the ground will allow them to conduct elections in parts of the country. Meanwhile, the country's acting Security Secretary, Fred Matiang'i, held a closed-door meeting with security chiefs on how best to maintain order on voting day.
Kenyans are on edge 3 days to the presidential election rerun on Thursday, October 26th. Many spend the weekend in fervent prayers, begging God to intervene in the politically charged atmosphere. Both the ruling coalition Jubilee and main opposition NASA leaders led supporters in prayers at different venues and with starkly different messages. The main opposition, NASA, maintains there will be no election after its presidential candidate Raila Odinga withdrew after his demands were not met by the electoral body IEBC. On the other hand, the ruling coalition Jubilee, led by President Uhuru Kenyatta, says come what may, the vote will take place as planned.
Those who wish not to vote, I promise you that your rights not to vote shall equally be respected. But we must remember that no right supersedes the other. Those who wish to vote must be allowed to vote, just as those who wish not to vote must be allowed not to vote, but our country must move forward.
Kenyatta says those who wish to vote are guaranteed adequate security on polling day. Mr. Odinga has called on his supporters to boycott the vote and instead stage mass national protests across the country.
As far as NASA is concerned, there will be no election to the 26th. We have not said that we are going to block anybody who wants to participate in whatever exercise they want, however they call it. But as far as we are concerned, there are no elections.
In the middle of this unfolding and rather scary drama is the electoral body IEBC. After revelations by its chairman Wafula Chebukati and now former Commissioner Roselyn Akombe that there is external political interference in its operations and therefore is essentially compromised, many are questioning whether it is wise to proceed with the vote. IEBC Chairman Chebukati acknowledged that under the current circumstances, he cannot guarantee free, fair and credible election. So, will the election really take place?
There will be election. There will be election as demanded. Until IEBC, remember in this case, the law still allows IEBC, and IEBC is mandated by the law to officiate this election on the 26th as they've announced. But remember, that 26th date of the new election, of the next presidential election, which is on the 26th, it's not written on stone. The law allows IEBC to conduct an election within 60 days. That 60 days ends on 1st of November. And for that reason, if they think they're not prepared, as IEBC's chairman himself has said, that they seem not to be prepared and they cannot assure the country of free, credible election if things remains the way they are, then election will be done. President Uhuru Kenyatta will get his voice and he will be declared the president. But where will be the country? Where will be these people that says that they are not part of that election? And remember, you can't force everybody. Honorable Amolo Odinga Raila has so many supporters in this country. If they say they're not going to vote, they will not vote. And those people are not just in his strongholds. Those people are also even in the strongholds of the president himself. That is a reality. And so an election on the 26th to leave this country more divided and more suspicious with one another, or a dialogue to fix the political stalemate that we have. Which one will be superior to the other? I think a dialogue will do.
While lamenting about his tribulations at the head of the IEBC, Mr. Chebukati hinted he might consider resigning. His resignation would be a major development and a test to the new Kenyan constitution.
As it is today in Kenya, if the chairman of IEBC, Wafula Chebukati, decides to resign, it will be a very difficult moment because it will mean that the election will be postponed. As it is today, the laws of Kenya only recognizes the IEBC national returning officer to be that of the chairman of IEBC. And for that reason, if he resigns today, we will be in a state of quagmire. We have no prescription in the law describing what next to be done. But what I know is the president does not, in his incumbency, he does not have powers to appoint new commissioners. And for that reason, we might most likely go for another 90 days as we prepare for a new election, if the chairman resigns today.
A short time ago, President Uhuru Kenyatta met with the IEBC chairman, Wafula Chebukati.
Now, for more on election, joining us via Skype from Nairobi is Africa 54 Managing Editor. Good evening, Vincent. What more do we know about the discussions between President Kenyatta and the IEBC Chairman, Mr. Chebukati?
Well, actually very little. Indeed, they met today at the President's official office, Harambee House, and the president's spokesperson came out and told the press that the president emphasized that he has no problem with the Electoral Commission, and that all he thinks he wanted to communicate to them is what he has said before, that they have an obligation, a responsibility to conduct an election on the 26th of October. And so it looks like the president, either they discussed things they wouldn't want to share, or perhaps he really did not have much more to say than what he has been saying throughout this period, that he has nothing against the position of the operations of the IEBC.
Vincent, a very tense situation in Kenya when you listen to all sides, including your interview with analyst Agwanda. What do Kenyans think at this point? What are they expecting on Thursday?
First, this is the most unpredictable time ever in Kenya. The only time perhaps when people have wondered whether an election will happen just 2 or 3 days before the time comes. Many people are apprehensive. Most people are confused. They're not so sure. In fact, there are some kind of conditions under which these elections will take place. But also, when you look at it on the other side, it looks like a real impossible task. People are left in a state of confusion, and the closer we get to Thursday, the more people get concerned about what will this country look like on Friday morning. What will Kenya look like after Thursday? That is a big question that many people are asking.
Wow, very, very tense situation there. Vincent, thank you as always for your insight into the Kenyan politics.
Thank you.
Africa 54's Managing Editor Vincent Makori reporting live via Skype from Nairobi. Now, peace in Africa's youngest nation, South Sudan, remains elusive as a result of a power struggle. Half of the population depends on food aid, while thousands have fled the country because of the ongoing civil war. And joining me in the studio here in Washington is former South Sudan Agriculture Minister, Mr. Lam Akol. Mr. Akol, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you very much.
First of all, let me know, what brings you to Washington, D.C.?
Well, I came to Washington, D.C. to share my views with American people, the American authorities, the American think tanks, and all this. Of course, USA matters a lot in relation to the situation in South Sudan.
Now, of course, we've said peace remains elusive. There was so much hope in 2011 when you gained independence from Sudan.
Right. That's right.
What happened? Why are we still having the civil war going on?
We have the civil war because the country was run by a party that was exclusive. It didn't think that the country belonged to all of us. They thought they were South Sudan and South Sudan were them. And as a result, they alienated the people of South Sudan. They were involved in massive, rampant corruption. They did not deliver services to the people. And at the end of the day, they quarreled among themselves. And this led to the civil war that erupted in December 2013.
Yes, you are a minister of agriculture in Salva Kiir's government, and you broke away now. You have your own party. What happened here? Why did you break away from the government?
Well, let me put it in context. The impression that I was a Minister of Agriculture in Salva Kiir's government is misleading. In fact, as a result of the agreement that took place in August 2015, there was a transitional government of national unity that involves all the stakeholders. So we were part of that government representing our group, the National Alliance, that is an opposition group to Salva Kiir's government. So it was a coalition government tied by the agreement. Our mandate was to implement the peace agreement. So now, when the peace agreement was abrogated in July 2016, naturally, I didn't have anything to do because I was chosen by my people to implement the peace.
Because we're running out of time. Who is to blame for the continued violence in South Sudan?
Salva Kiir, without doubt. He's the one who violated the peace agreement in July 2016.
So everyone points a finger on Salva Kiir. What about the opposition? What are you guys doing to make sure that peace is maintained in South Sudan? Half of the population now depends on food aid.
Not only that, but even 1/3 of the population is out of the country. So Salva Kiir as president should see that his responsibility is towards the people. The people got a chance to have peace in 2015. He squandered that chance for his own personal interest. What the opposition is doing now is to try to persuade the IGAD countries, the international community, so that they can pressure the government in Juba to accept peace.
The question, Mr. Akol, is how long will it take? That's the question of the Sudanese people, South Sudanese people. How long will it take to get to that point?
Well, I mean, if it was left to us, it should be today or tomorrow. It is not in our hands. The question is, what would you do? It is the government in Juba that is so careless. It doesn't care about its own people. And the people voted by their feet to get to the neighboring countries.
We hear that, the blame. But how do we get to that point where we have peace in South Sudan?
It takes two to tango. We as opposition, we are very serious about bringing about peace today in South Sudan. But without, involving the government, it will not happen. So this is why we think that the President of South Sudan should exert pressure to make the government feel that their people are suffering. It is called a government because it is serving the people. And if you are a government that supervises over the depopulation of South Sudan, then it is better you think otherwise. So we want the friends of South Sudan to pressure the government in Juba to talk peace with us.
We'll be very happy to have you back when Sudan is stable. Tell us this is how we did it, and maybe set an example for other countries. Thank you, Mr. Akol, for talking to us.
Thank you very mumuch. Thank you.
Lam Akol is an opposition leader for the National Democratic Movement Party and a former minister in the South Sudan government. Now, the World Health Organization has rescinded its appointment of Zimbabwe President Robert Mugabe as a goodwill ambassador. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said Sunday the decision was made in the best interests of the World Health Organization. Tedros announced Mugabe's appointment 2 days earlier, saying the 93-year-old Zimbabwean leader could influence his peers in his region. But more than 24 organizations quickly released a statement slamming the decision, citing Mugabe's record of human rights abuses and claiming his country's health care system has collapsed. The United States called the appointment disappointing. The U.S. has maintained sanctions on Zimbabwe since 2003, citing Mugabe's misuse of millions of dollars, human rights abuses, and accusations of electoral fraud. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook. So check us out and share our show with your friends. Also, check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, a South African bakery boosts sales by cutting prices. Stay with us.
How do you see the world?
I see countries in turmoil.
I see our planet changing.
I see people at peace.
No matter how you see the world, you'll get an unbiased and uncensored view of it on Voice of America, on television, radio, online, and mobile. In more than 40 languages, all day, every day. Millions of people tune us in.
How do I see the world? On Voice of America.
Now, the 15 members of the United Nations Security Council met for a few hours during a visit to Mopti in the center of Mali on Sunday. They had talks with the regional authorities, the commander of the G5 Sahel force, and civil society leaders on security and other issues. The ambassador of Ethiopia to the United Nations spoke exclusively to VOA Bambara journalist Mamadou Bokom.
The lesson that we take and the message that we'll be taking with us to New York is that the security situation is worse than we thought it was. The need for the G5 Sahel force is absolutely critical. That has convinced us that the international community would have to do something. The Security Council would have to do something. This is a message that we are taking back to New York. Then what is going to happen, what might happen in New York within the Security Council is something that we'll see. But I have no doubt in my mind that there is hardly anybody, any member of this Security Council mission who has not been affected by what he saw, but by what he heard. The meeting we had today was particularly very touching, really. All civil society representatives were saying in one voice that they are being affected in a very sad manner by lack of security. Some of them are saying they cannot even go to the market. This is something that the world would have to listen to. Therefore, having heard this, I am sure the Security Council will react and will react positively.
That was Takeda Alemu, Ethiopia's ambassador to the United Nations, speaking exclusively to VOA. A bakery in a low-income area of Johannesburg slashed prices of its popular bread with unexpected results. What started as a way to help feed the community has become a recipe for success. VOA's Arash Arabasad reports.
This South African bakery has a good problem. Its bread baking business is on the rise.
It's every day a rough day, I'll put it that way, because of the pressure keeps going up.
Nicholas Refilo owns the Barotho Bakery in a low-income area of Johannesburg. He invested about $2,000 to open the shop, and since cutting his prices in half to about 44 cents per loaf, his shop's output has gone from 40 loaves a day to 600 in just 1 year.
The bread is nice. It makes good kotas. And people love them. The price is right, it's very good, and we can actually afford it.
With business booming, Refilo employs a staff of 4 working to keep up with a demand so high some customers come from out of town.
It's helpful because it's cheap and fresh. That's why I come from far to buy them.
Refilo launched the Barotho Bakery at a time when other bakers hiked their prices to keep pace with inflation. He saw an opportunity to cut prices but still sell quality bread.
So their bread is very nice. It's very smooth. It's smooth and small, and it's smooth and it's soft. It's right for eating for breakfast.
But the demand for his bread is high and ever increasing.
So we are working as a team whereby we understand where we want to go with our business. Though it's not easy, put it that way, it takes a personal sacrifices and compromises to win this situation.
Refilo is now looking to open a second shop, hoping to meet the growing hunger for his bread. Arash Arabasadi, VOA News.
It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, highlights from London's Modest Fashion Festival. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In Nigeria, 3 female suicide bombers killed 13 people and wounded 16 in the northeastern city of Maiduguri. Kenya is planning to proceed with a repeat election Thursday despite mixed signals about participation of opposition leader Raila Odinga. In Liberia, weeks before second round of presidential election, people in West Point, a slum of Monrovia, say they feel neglected and are ready to vote for former football star George Weah. Finally, the World Health Organization removes Zimbabwe President Robert Mugabe as a goodwill ambassador following outrage by donors and rights groups.
That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
And welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. 7 designers showcased their collections in London at a modest fashion show that organizers say was aimed at injecting glamour into the hijab. The 7 participants came from Oman, Morocco, Britain, and Indonesia. The collections were designed for women wanting to dress fashionably, but without showing too much skin. In the past 2 years, the hijab has gone mainstream, with advertisers, media giants, and fashion firms promoting images of the traditional headscarf in a variety of ways. Next up, this year's winner of the world's Best Bar Award is an old London classic, but it's still learning new tricks to stay relevant. Bartenders at the American Bar in London's Savoy Hotel continue to experiment with different spirits, styles, and flavors. Its current cocktail menu, named Coast to Coast, whisks guests on a liquid journey across Britain, exploring its unique ingredients and nuanced flavors. Recently, the American Bar was honored for its unique experience. It was named World's Best Bar in an annual list of top 50, having received the most votes from over 500 industry experts. And finally, 2 entrepreneurs from the Republic of Georgia have invented a wearable device they say can filter pollution and transform it into clean, fresh air. Environmental pollution from filthy air to contaminated water kills at least 9 million people a year, according to a new study published by the medical journal The Lancet. The pocket-sized Tripex device aims to change that. The cleaning consists of several stages. First, solid particles such as lead, carbon, and smog are removed. After the initial cleaning, the active filtration process starts, which is done through a series of chemical reactions. And that's what's trending today. And that's our show for today. Good night from Washington.
Welcome to English in a Minute. When something loses its original shape or form, it does not look very natural or comfortable.
Bent out of shape.
Hey, did you tell Greg about my dinner party?
Yeah, I did. I thought he was invited.
Well, now he's all bent out of shape because I didn't invite him.
I'm sorry.